Just as a continuation on the message that I shared last week on the church at Thyatira, one of the things to note is that I'm sure none of us would want to be in a situation like that, where the church was rebuked by Jesus. But how does a church get to that state? How does it get to that type of condition where they tolerated sin and they just got to that state of absolute, terrible condemnation from Jesus? And I believe it all starts off with a little compromise, even as we spoke about the little leaven that leavens the lump. And that's what it takes, And the story that fits so well with that is the story of the frog in the hot water. And a lot of us know about that and how, the temperature is just a little bit warm and the frog is enjoying it, swimming around and that sort of thing. And eventually, slowly, the temperature gets turned up. The frog doesn't realize it, and eventually, sadly, it boils to death. And that's the state of the church in Thyatira, that they just compromise a little bit, compromise a bit here, compromise a bit there. Surely God won't be angry with that. And maybe we can look the other way here and there. And eventually, that's what happens. It leads to a state where Jesus rebukes Thyatira to the extent where, as I said, Satan wasn't just inside the church, but he was actually behind the pulpit with the evil prophetess Jezebel that was now taking control of the church. And so let's catch up on where I left off the last time. Is that we got to be aware that if we tolerate false teaching and immorality, then we are being led astray and become followers of Satan and not God. So we talk about revival, and I want to encourage that. When does revival take place? Revival is when the church gets serious about pursuing holiness and dealing with sin. There really cannot be any two other ways about getting there. You got to be able to pursue holiness, and you cannot pursue holiness if you are tolerating sin. Because let's be honest and remember that 1 Peter 4:17, and I really believe that this is where we are in the age of the church and in the age of history. For the time has come for judgment to begin at the house of God. And there is an actual cleanup that God is doing in the house of God. And we see this with Thyatira, that, one pastor put it that the poison was coming from the pulpit. Now, who's okay with drinking only a little bit of poison? Not anyone. Because any amount of poison can be lethal. So the best is to stay away from all poison at all costs. And that is what sin is. Sin is the same. Unfortunately, sometimes the sin can be disguised as beneficial and fun. But sin is slow suicide. So do yourself a favor. Do a stock take. Get in and remove everything and anything that is not of God and not in line with Scripture. Remember, Jesus is standing at the door and he's knocking. Jesus is moving in our midst. God bless you. Take care.